Thank you, Madam President, and hello to all of my fellow Toastmasters and to our guests this evening. It's so nice to see Peter, and it's nice to see Shandeep. It has been a while that we've seen Shandeep, so it's great to have you on our call and participating in this meeting. Before I start, actually, I was going to quickly share something because I know the theme this evening, the Valentine's theme, is what we love about Toastmasters and how we think Toastmasters has helped us, presentation skills or confidence. And I wanted to share quickly a short little story. I immediately thought of something when Chaffee put out that theme, and I was thinking about when I did a eulogy for my mom's memorial service. And looking back, I truly believe, because I had already started participating in Toastmasters, and I really believe that it was having had that experience with Toastmasters that helped me to go over that hurdle, because I don't think I would have done it probably if I hadn't had a little bit of that experience already. So, and it was something that I wanted to do so much for my mom. I hadn't done it at my dad's memorial, and it was so important to me to do it for my mom. And I really think that Toastmasters helped me. And after I did that eulogy, there were a number of people that came up to me and told me what a beautiful eulogy it was, and gave me compliments and gave me positive comments. And again, I think it was just having that little bit more confidence to get up and do that for my mom. I wanted to share that. Okay, I am going to, thank you. I am going to next go through the agenda quickly before we get started with the meeting and share who will be taking on the roles this evening. We will start with an invocation, and that typically is something inspirational or something to reflect on, or somebody has read a poem before, something to get our meeting started and set the tone. And Bev will be taking on the role of invocator this evening. Bev will also be our Wordmaster Grammarian this evening, and I will let Bev describe that role once we get back to that point. We also will have our timer, and Brian is our timer tonight. And Brian will be timing the prepared speeches, he'll be timing the evaluations, and he'll be timing the table topic speeches. And then we will go into the prepared speeches for the evening, which we have 2 tonight. And we have Mary, who will be doing the first speech. And then we have Brent, who will be doing the second speech tonight. After the speeches, we, of course, will have the evaluations of the speeches. And I have that Juan will be doing an evaluation for Mary, and Chaffee will be doing an evaluation for Brent tonight. And after we finish up with speeches and the speech evaluations, we then go into the table topics portion of the meeting. And 2 things about table topics. First of all, it is open to our guests. So our guests are welcome to participate in the table topics. And as I think we all know, it is impromptu. So it's a chance for us to practice impromptu speaking. It's not prepared. So it's always helpful, always a little scary for me, but always helpful. And then we basically wind up the meeting with a couple of reports. We'll have our Wordmaster Grammarian give us a report about how we did in that area. And then we usually would have a general evaluator, but we're not going to do the general evaluator tonight. I may do a little bit, but there's the general evaluator role. And that person typically will introduce the evaluators when we get to that point. And then they give an evaluation of the meeting at the end. And that may be things like how did the meeting flow? Were we on time? Are there things that we could do a little bit better the next time? And I may add a little bit of that at the end, but Chaffee wanted a little more time. at the beginning of our meeting. So we decided not to have that role tonight. And thank goodness, because Chaffee, that was amazing what you did at the beginning of our meeting with the Valentines and honoring all of us with a Valentine. So it was wonderful. Okay, we are going to get started. I will go back to, I am going to invite to our virtual lectern, Bev Smith, to do actually both the invocation, and then I'll let her go right into doing explaining the Word Master Grammarian role. Bev?
Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. It is great to see each of you. I'm glad that you had an opportunity to join us this evening. I want to start off with our theme, which is Valentine's. And I found a positive quote that I wanted to share with you, which will reference our theme for this evening, as well as the chosen word of the day. Being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. We are most alive when we are in love. The only thing we never get enough of is love. And the only thing we never give enough of is love. There is only one happiness in life: to love and to be loved. The word of the day will be appreciate. And as your word master grammarian, appreciate what you have, where you are, and who you are in this moment. The word appreciate also relates to love. It is a synonym of love. Appreciate is to understand the worth or importance of something or someone, to admire and value something or someone. An example, the company strives its employees to feel appreciated. Those who appreciate wine will enjoy reading the restaurant's wine list. Appreciate also means to be grateful for something. I really appreciated the information you gave me. Your help the other day was greatly appreciated. Again, learn to appreciate what you have before time makes you appreciate what you had. Appreciate everything you already have. And you know what? I appreciate you. That is your word for the day, is appreciate. As your grammarian, I am going to be listening for filler crutch words such as so, and repeated words. And I will be keeping a tally of that. To help you with your filler words, it is good to take a pause and take your time when you're speaking, which will help you to be able to learn that you don't have to rely on your filler words or your crutch words, because taking that deep breath and pausing will help you not to say oh, and you don't want to lose your audience. We are your audience. We are excited to hear what you have to say, and we want you to be able to do your best this evening. Thank you. And I'll give it back to our Toastmaster for today with our word of the day. Again, is appreciate. And I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Bev. You weave those two roles together so well, the invocation and into the Word Master Grammarian. It tied together so beautifully. And it made me think about the other thing I wanted to say about loving Toastmasters. It's not only the learning to do presentations, to do speeches, and to gain confidence, but I think it's really meeting the people in Toastmasters. And we just have such a great group, I think, right now of Toastmasters, and I really appreciate every one of you also. So thank you very much for that invitation and introducing our word for the evening. We are going to go then into our speeches, our prepared speeches. And before we do that, I will have Brian go through the timing rules. Both, from my understanding, both of the speeches this evening are 5 to 7 minutes. I am going to hand over the virtual lectern to Brian to quickly tell us the timing rules for the speeches.
Greetings, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. At the time, I will be timing the table topics, formal speeches, and the evaluations. I will also alert the speaker of the time they have left using the yellow, green, and red screens, which will give the specific times remaining.
Thank you. So, right, so he'll do the green at 5, the yellow at 6, and the red at 7. Great, I am going to go ahead then, and I am going to introduce our first speaker. She, I know, introduced herself also at the beginning of the meeting. Mary is our area director. And Mary is going to be doing a speech tonight titled Managing Change Through Switching Careers. And I am going to read the introduction that Mary gave for her speech. During Q4 of 2021, Mary accepted a career move to move from being a project manager to being a senior analyst for demand planning brands. During this transition, Mary had to manage responsibilities, expectations, and change with 3 groups: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Mary is still in the process of transitioning, but Mary will share how she made scheduled communication an integral part of change management since she began the process of managing this change. So I would like to hand over our lectern to Mary for her speech, and Brian will do the timing.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Last October, I accepted a new role within my same company, and for the first time, I was going to pivot into an analytics field from being a project manager. I was excited about joining this team because it was a brand new role, and I was going to help the demand planning team being an ambassador to marketing team because marketing and sales weren't always aligning on the same forecast and volume expectations around how much candy our company should be making next month or next year. With this job change, I knew that with my current responsibilities, my projects, teams, and my managers, they all want to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. To manage this change effectively, I had to think critically about who were my stakeholders and what degree of impact they were going to experience from me having this role change. Therefore, I determined there were 3 groups: primary, secondary, and tertiary, and they are all affected in different ways. So I need to communicate with them about my change in different ways. In the first group, the primary group, those are really 2 people. It's my previous manager when I was a project manager, Suzanne, and my future hiring manager, Cam. Both of them wanted to make sure I would be able to deliver on the business needs. However, with this job change, I didn't want to get caught doing 2 jobs at once. Therefore, I decided to host a meeting and bring both of them into the same room so that they both could talk it out around what the current circumstances were and see firsthand with transparency what I was going to be asked to handle. When I brought them into the room, Suzanne said, "Cam, I don't have anyone to backfill Mary right away, so she still needs to hang on to her projects." Cam was extremely understanding, saying, "Yes, I know that's going to take time to find Mary's backfill. So how about this? Could Mary just commit to attending training in December? There's going to be a few other new hires, and this would help the trainers extremely. They don't have to do a one-off with Mary to get her up to speed." To me and Suzanne, that made sense, and I agreed to commit to attending demand planning training. I asked both of them, now that we've had this conversation, how do you want me to keep you informed? Do you want me to set up another meeting next month? Should we check in once a month? Because I asked both of them this, they both felt that they had a choice in making the right amount of communication that suited for them. They said, Mary, we don't need to meet unless we reach a point where your time and resource is getting too stressed over doing your previous role and your new role. With that in mind, then it was up to me to decide, and I'm glad that they put that responsibility on me to communicate with them most effectively. With my secondary degree, that was a merchandising team that I was helping to job shadow while one of their team members was out on maternity leave. I had already signed up for this commitment to help while that coworker was out on maternity leave back in August. And the thing about maternity leaves is there's always an end date. She has to come back, right? I knew that she was going to come back in December. Therefore, again, I was transparent to that team saying, I recently switched to a new role. And because I'm starting to take on more responsibilities of attending training with the demand planning team and still managing the projects that I had with my previous role, I need to be really clear on what meetings I must attend and don't need to attend. I need to be really clear on what tasks I should complete and what tasks someone else could complete. They completely understood what those asks were about. And by making sure that I was firm on what meetings I was going to be attending, what communication I was responsible for, that helped ensure that nothing fell for the cracks and that when that coworker came back from maternity leave, she knew how to pick it up as quickly as possible because these were her projects prior to her leaving for maternity leave. In my tertiary group, the third degree of impact, those are the team members from the projects that I was leading. Now, this group doesn't have any control over what my roles and responsibilities are. Therefore, I communicated to them verbally. I said, hey, project team members, I just want to let you know that I am going to be transitioning to a new role. I will let you know when I've identified another person to pick up those tasks and responsibilities. And until I inform you so, it is still business as usual. Therefore, the project team still continued to come to me to ask questions, and we would get those tasks completed. Suzanne was working on the backhand, making sure that she found a backfill, and she found other project managers who had a little bit of free time. Therefore, when I was put in contact with them, we set up meetings to talk through it. I gave documentation written out exactly what tasks needed to come through next, and made myself available through IM, calls, if they ever wanted to reach out and ask questions. Therefore, by setting expectations around what communication was needed, this also helped ensure that cross-functional teams and the members who I was transitioning my projects onto, they were informed that I was a resource and I was going to be able to be reached in these ways. In conclusion, make how you communicate an integral part of change management. I identified that I really had 3 degrees of stakeholders. My primary, which was my managers, and I made sure that they had a voice in deciding how they want to be communicated to. With my secondary group, the group that I was helping in a job shadow and covering for a coworker's maternity leave, I had to be very clear and upfront about what my time and resource could be used to complete out this job shadow and the maternity leave coverage. And third, with the tertiary group, those are my project team members. I shared information verbally, written, IM, and made myself available and knew who to direct them to once there was a project manager identified. In the future, you may experience a rapid change, but I hope that you'll appreciate that in this speech, you'll have ways to make sure you communicate effectively with the stakeholders of different degrees of impacts so that you can complete your transition successfully. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much for that speech. First of all, I wanted to let people know this is a chance for everyone to use the chat box. You can do it directly to Mary, choose Mary's name, and give your personal feedback for Mary's speech. We always do this in our meetings when we're in person, and so we use the chat box to do it when we're on Zoom. So please feel free. I'm going to just pause a little bit to let people give Mary some feedback. I know she'll have Juan evaluating her, but we always give her our personal feedback as well. But I really, really enjoyed that speech, Mary. It was so well paced and so well organized and so well presented. It was really a wonderful example. And I learned a lot about you, about using communication in a job situation, in a work situation. So I'm going to pause a little bit. And you know, I can't remember actually, as people are doing that, as I went through the agenda, I can't even remember. I know I mentioned table topics, but I can't remember if I actually mentioned that Chaffee will be our table topics master this evening. I think I maybe actually failed to say that, or I just didn't remember saying it, but anyway. So yes, please take just a little bit of time and give your feedback for Mary's speech. And then, of course, we will move on and have a second speech. Okay, I will go ahead as people are doing that and introduce our second speaker and speech. Our second speaker for this evening is one of our newer club members. And as Chaffee mentioned, he's already done, I think she said 3 speeches in about 6 months. And Brent, what can you tell me, what pathway are you doing?
Yeah, I didn't do a pathway for this.
No, okay. Okay, that's fine. So that's fine. I totally relate to that. So Brent's speech, it's again 5 to 7 minutes, and the title of his speech is Running on the Hedonic Treadmill. Hopefully I said that word okay, hedonic. And I am going to give also the intro for Brent's speech. Brent is going to explore the idea that we are bad at predicting what will make us happy and what we can learn from an interesting theory on happiness. It sounds very intriguing to me, Brent. I am going to go ahead and have Brent come up to our virtual lectern. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam.
Brian will be timing you.
Okay, great. Okay, I have a question for all of you to think about. Do you think in a year from now, you'll be happier than you are today? Let's think about that for a second. Okay, I would have said yes, for sure. Okay, and why? What are some of the things that come up? So maybe I'm more comfortable in my job. The projects that are looming in my mind, those will be done. Maybe the pandemic will be over and we can travel more and see family more. Okay, we've said that for a couple of years. There's all these things that come to mind. Yeah, for sure, I'll be happier. So I don't mean to burst your bubble. Don't take this the wrong way. I think if you answered yes, you're probably wrong. And that's what psychologists would say, okay? Now hear me out. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll have sort of a hopeful ending to what I've just said. But what I'm touching on is a theory known as the hedonic treadmill. And what this theory basically says is we all have a baseline level of happiness, and almost nothing that happens to us can change this baseline. What happens is we get these little blips, like the happiness goes up, it goes down, but we more quickly than you would ever estimate or guess from predicting in the future, revert back to this baseline. And this includes extreme events. So for instance, let's think of something really good that would happen. We've all thought about what would happen if you won the lottery. I'm sure you've all heard stories of people that have won the lottery and they end up, in worse positions than before. But why does that happen? Because when I think about winning the lottery, what would I do? I'd quit my job. What's the point of working 40 hours a week, right? And then I would travel a lot. I would find ways to give away my money to make myself feel good. Okay, I'd never be on the clock. All of this makes me think that there's no way I would be the same happiness, or less, or, not a lot more happier than I am now. Okay. But that's just not what psychologists that study this stuff say. They say that very quickly you'll return to your baseline level of happiness. So why is this? Over a long period of time, humans evolved so that their brain, we got good at surviving. And our survival advantage was we think a lot about the future and we think a lot about the past. The future is something, we have a big part of our brain that allows us to plan ahead. Animals and others have kind of tendencies to do this, but humans are really good at it. And we constantly think about the future. What's next? What's next? Okay, I achieved that project. What's next? And we also are really good at thinking about the past. We have amazing memories. And so we're always thinking about past embarrassments, past failures. Well, how can we learn from this? And this helped us survive. But now it's a little easier to survive than it used to be. And we kind of went overboard in our brains. And now we're not very good at thinking about anything else. It's always what's next, what's next, what's next. And I'm definitely somebody that thinks about this. How many times during the week do you think, oh, once Friday comes and Thursday's over, it'll be good. And then Saturday comes and you're thinking about Monday. And it's like, what's coming up? Or maybe you have to give a speech to this really mean, intimidating group of Toastmasters people, right? And then it's just looming on you. But once you get past it, okay, it'll be okay. But then it's another thing. Okay, so I'm being a big bummer, I think maybe right now, but let's think about this on a more positive side. So the other side of this is the treadmill also works in reverse. So I don't want you to think about terrible things, but I can almost promise you that if a really negative thing happened to you, you would bounce back to your baseline much quicker than what you would guess. There's evidence that says that people that have suffered paralyzing traumas are just as happy as people that we talked about earlier that won the lottery. And that's shocking to think about, but it's every research study that has been done on this has said the same thing on that. So if we keep chasing these little happiness spikes, which is still good, I don't want you guys to think that Brenda's telling you that nothing matters, that you're always going to be the same level of happy. No, we should strive to improve. We should chase these little happiness spikes. But what I'm going to try to ask you to do that I need to be better at is let's think about ways to actually raise the baseline slightly rather than chasing these spikes. So there's lots of ways to do this, but I'm going to give you two that I think are pretty easy to implement, two things that I still need to work on. And I don't think they'll surprise you. I'm sure you've heard them before. But first is living in the moment. Okay, this is a proven way. And I thought it was amazing that Bev and Martha kind of touched on this, appreciating what's going on right now. So you can integrate meditation into your routine, and this is going to help you focus on the now, or just set reminders throughout the day to think about what's going on around you. Try to get in the habit of thinking about what's going on right now, not the future, not the past, but the present. Okay, that's one. And the next one is even easier, and I think even more powerful, and that's to be grateful and to appreciate what's going on in your life. So set reminders, force yourself to be grateful for what you have. Regardless of our situation, we all have things that we can be grateful for. So doing those two things, living in the moment and being more grateful, forcing ourselves to be grateful. If you find yourself stuck on the hedonic treadmill and every obstacle that comes and passes presents another obstacle, let's think about those two things, and maybe you can raise that baseline and you can prove me wrong, and you will be happier next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brent. I love that. Actually, when you were doing that speech and you mentioned the future and the past and the baseline, as you were talking about it, I was thinking to myself, it is that baseline that needs to go up. And one thing I thought about is that for myself, that I feel like maturity also, getting older and maturing has also helped like me to raise that baseline. But I thought about that's when you brought up living in the moment, I was thinking about, because I've done meditation on and off, and I know part of it is that when your mind goes, you try to bring it back, just sort of bring it back to a center. And I feel like lately, when I've started worrying about things, which I guess has to do with the future, right? That I've thought to myself, no, just think about what's going on right now. Just come back right here. And it's amazing. It is amazing. So I love that. I really love that. Same thing, if people could please, for Brent, use the chat box and send their comments and reactions to Brent directly to him. You can choose his name in the chat box. And actually, while people are doing that, I will go ahead and check in with Brian, because we'll go ahead and vote for a best speaker. I will ask Brian about their timing and if they both were within the timing limit.
For the first speech, it was just a couple seconds over 7 minutes and 19 seconds. So I'm not sure.
How much, what was it?
7 minutes and 19 seconds.
So actually, that's okay. So one of the, I know since you're new to timing, so if they have a 5 to 7 minute speech,
Mhm.
they can go 30 seconds over.
All right.
So Mary qualified because she went less than 30 seconds over. And then it's also the same on the other end. If it's a 5 to 7 minute speech, as long as somebody does, as long as the speech is 4.5 minutes, then again, they're within the limit or the range. And then what about Brent?
Yes, he qualified at 6 minutes and 15 seconds.
Right. Okay, great. Okay. We can then go ahead and vote for best speaker. And I am actually going to ask somebody if somebody would tally that for me, like if we can have someone send their votes to someone on the call. Bev, would you mind doing that for best speaker? Is that okay? Okay, so why don't we, for best speaker, have everybody send their votes to Bev. And let's see here, let me look here, okay. And you know, I'm actually forgetting, do we go ahead and announce that, right? As soon as she gets the tally? Okay, that's what I thought. And I will then actually let Bev, once she gets the tally, tell us who the best speaker is for the evening. And I hope everyone had a chance to give both of our speakers their personal evaluation. Just a few comments is plenty. Let's see, are you getting the votes, Bev? Okay. It's always tough to do. It's always very tough for me to do, to vote on a best speaker. They were excellent speeches.
Okay, I
Okay.
have the votes in, and drum roll. Our speaker for this evening for best speech is Brent. Woohoo! Brent, we appreciate that magnificent speech that you gave us, and it was awesome. Congratulations to you. Mary, you were right behind him. It was neck to neck. And that one vote brought him over, but you two were neck to neck. And I appreciate your speech as well, too. Thank you both for two wonderful speeches this evening.
All right, thank you so much, Bev, for doing that. And yes, I loved both of the speeches. Okay, we are now going to go on to the formal evaluations of our speakers. And before we start the evaluations, I'm going to ask Brian to give the timing rules for an evaluation. But do you know the length of it, Brian, for the evaluation?
2 to 3 minutes.
Yep, you got it. Okay. So that means he'll do the, I always mix this up. He'll do the green at 2 minutes, right? The yellow at 2.5 and the red at 3. And then it's the same. They have 30 seconds on either end of that, the evaluator. Okay, great. I am going to ask our first evaluator, Juan, to come up to the virtual lectern to give his evaluation for Mary's speech.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially Mary. Mary, I truly enjoyed your speech, not because you've been so kind in the past to evaluate me, but because it was a fantastic speech, and I'll tell you why. First, you stood up, you smiled, you seemed so confident, Mary, that you made it much easier for me to listen to your speech, to learn about what you had to say. And Mary, your speech is incredibly organized. Just like Martha said before, I've learned so much about you, and I've learned how you think just by listening to the speech, because it is greatly, greatly well organized. You had an introduction, you gave us signals as to what you're about to say, then you say it, and then you concluded by repeating the exact, well, not the exact same thing, but generally speaking, similar ideas to allow us to fully comprehend what you had to talk about. As far as your body language is concerned, again, you looked extremely confident, looked very, very at ease. I love the way that you use your hand to signal certain aspects of your speech that we need to pay attention to. You also had very clear voice. I understood every single word that you said. I love the fact that you broke down your speech into 3 groups and fully explained each group in turns. I like the idea of explaining the various, what did you call them? Stakeholders, the various stakeholders, and how you communicate with them. And the way that you communicated with them differ based upon their roles versus you. I understood all that, and I appreciate the way that you communicated to them, which in turn share with me how I should communicate when I speak to other people in terms of role changing and things of that nature. Mary, I would challenge you to perhaps use a little bit more personal stories when you're describing all of these ideas. You did go into a little bit of a story when you talked about your bosses in a room, you got them into a meeting. And I also love the fact that you also mentioned something about one of your fellow workers going on maternity leave. As a matter of fact, when you gave us that little tidbit, little story, I thought you were going to surprise us by saying that she never came back. But regardless, I thought this speech was fantastic. I love the way that you went through it, very detailed, very organized, and the entire speech was easy to understand and very well delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan, for that evaluation for Mary. And actually, I was thinking the same thing as I was hearing Mary's speech. I did like when you actually named the people, the two coworkers. And then there was like, I think you illustrated a little conversation amongst you, and I thought that was an excellent way at that point to personalize it. Okay, so we are going to then move on with our next evaluation. And this will be an evaluation for Brent. And Chaffee is going to do Brent's evaluation, and Brian will do the timing. And I will invite Chaffee to come up to the virtual lectern.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Brent, as I mentioned earlier, I admire your just do it attitude. It amazes me that in just a couple days, you can put a speech together and do it with such effort and ease. One thing that I admire about you personally is your ability to come up and have a very conversational tone. I think that's very hard to do. And you've clearly put the speech together. You know the points you want to hit, but you engage the audience by asking us a question. You provide a nice story that pertains to you and also the audience, so you can get the audience to start to think. I thought you did a wonderful job. I like to kind of break it down into verbal and nonverbal. If I just talk about your nonverbal, you stood up. This time I noticed you used a few more gestures than your last speech. When you wanted to talk through next, there was an emphasis there. It encouraged us to pay attention, thinking, just when you're thinking about it. I just appreciated some of these gestures to get us a little bit more involved. You smiled, you used the gesture to mention your vocal tone. It's a wonderful pace. I can hear you. It's not too loud, not too soft. And then there's just great emphasis. I do think the one thing you can maybe do is move around just a little bit more within the space. Verbal, for the communication, I thought it was a very interesting topic. Sometimes it's very difficult to take something that psychology and turn it into something that engages people. And I thought you did a wonderful job of asking the question, talking about the science behind it, but making it very relatable. I also appreciated that you started with the negative. So sort of like an evaluation. You started with the negative, you moved into the positive, and then as the audience, what are your takeaways? What after this meeting are you going to take away? And it made me want to learn more about the psychology behind it, because it just made me second guess what they're saying of that you're at this baseline and there's only these couple things. I also particularly loved your jokes. You naturally, I think, add in that humor. One thing I would challenge for next time, I did notice a couple crutch words, so maybe just be aware of that. But I think you could add some more jokes in, because that's a very effective and hard thing for a lot of people to do as speakers. And I think you just really pull people in, and I think you're a natural speaker. So I just want to give you kudos. I hope you give a speech in the next 2 weeks or 4, because you're so great at it. So thank you so much for a wonderful speech, and congratulations on winning.
Thank you so much, Chaffee. That was so nice. I'll also say I didn't obviously come up with any of these ideas, but some of what I got is from a really good podcast I listened to called The Happiness Lab. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but great recommendation. It's a Yale professor, and she teaches this class on happiness. And so not all of it, I've kind of heard about these things for a long time, like a lot of you have, I think, but just really good recommendation there.
And it's called The Happiness Lab.
That's right.
I'll have to check it out. Thank you. And thank you for that evaluation for Brent. I know I can see he really appreciates it. I know it is such a crucial part of the meeting is for the speaker to get the feedback about, what's working, how people are reacting, a little suggestion for the next speech. So thank you. I will go ahead and take the vote. Actually, before I do that, I just want to check in with Brian about timing. Did both of our speakers fall into the right time?
Yes, they both qualified.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you, Brian. Okay, I will go ahead and take the vote for best evaluator. So we do a vote on that as well. We vote on best evaluator. We had two speeches, two evaluators. And then I will report back. Okay, let's see here. Okay. I'm seeing them all. Okay. So let's say I'm still looking. Okay. So did everyone have a chance to vote?
Who do we send
Who do
out?
I send the vote to?
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So to Martha Smith, it should say, right? It should have my full name, Martha Smith.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep, send the vote to Martha. Sorry about that. I'll wait just a couple more minutes. Or a minute. Peter, did you have a chance to do it? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, okay, so I think I've got it. Let's see here. Okay, I think I do have it. Okay, so our best evaluator for this evening is our VP of Education, Juan Tran. Thank you for an excellent evaluation, and we appreciate both evaluations. Thank you. Okay, so I hope we're doing okay time-wise. I know we have about 15 more minutes. I am going to now hand the meeting over to our table topics master, Chaffee Benson.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening again. Table Topics is an opportunity for everyone to participate, including our guests. It is also an opportunity to practice impromptu speaking. You'll have 1 to 2 minutes. I will ask for volunteers. I will not give you the question first. And it's going to be a mix of Toastmaster questions and Valentine's Day. So to start off, or do we have any volunteers that were victims?
I'll go.
Ah, Brian, awesome. Okay. Thank you. Okay, let me get you a question.
Do I time myself?
Oh, no. Juan will help.
All right.
Okay. Brian, what aspect of public speaking do you find the most difficult? Is it impromptu speaking, nonverbal, movement, verbal, humor, movement? Is there an area that you want to try to improve the most upon?
I'm sorry. Okay, never mind. Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt that. So we know for the timing, I know Juan is going to time Brian, and I forgot to have Brian introduce the timing rules, but so it's a 1 to 2 minute speech. So Brian, do you want to go through that? Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt that. Do you want to go through the timing for the 1 to 2 minute speech and the colors?
Sure. Yes, a 1 minute speech for the table topics. At 1 minute, you raise the green card, a minute and a half, yellow, and at 2 minutes, the red card.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
Brian, did you want me to repeat it? Or you got
I say everything because see, I'm new to public speaking, So I believe everything is difficult in the beginning as far as movement, gestures, and everything. It's something that I know for me, I'm gonna have to work at. I never knew that like gestures would play a part with public speaking and everything. Like people pay people pay attention to things like that and everything. Um, and me just getting comfortable with speaking in front of everybody. Like this is everything is new to me. So that's all I have.
Well, that's great, Brian. I do think that I felt the same way of like, where do I focus on there? I want to improve in all these things. And we're just so excited that you're joining. And I'm certain that there's definitely things that we can learn from you as having you part of our club. So we're very excited. And thank you for stepping up and being the first participant tonight. Okay, who else would like to volunteer?
I'll go.
Great, Peter. Let's see, 1 second. Pull up the question. Okay. I'm going to give you a funny one, Peter.
Okay.
Okay. So, glossophobia is the fear of public speaking, and aphodophobia is the fear of snakes. When I was 4, my mom had an out-of-box idea to sign my brother and I up for a snake class where for 30 minutes we played in a room filled with 30 snakes let out on the floor. Would you rather give a speech in front of 30 strangers or hang out with 30 snakes?
Well, in my history of public speaking, I want to say that before I became a member of this group and thought about public speaking, I probably would have chosen the snakes. But part of that reason is I think when I think about doing a public presentation, and I have done a few of them, continuing legal education programs and things, webinars, that sort of thing. I spent a lot more time worrying about giving the speech than I did actually sometimes about the content. So that would sometimes, I'm saying too many times, oh well, that would lead me down the wrong path, take a lot of time in sort of not using my time well. So I really had to learn how to be organized. And once I got up on the podium, I usually felt pretty comfortable. And things tend to flow pretty well, but it was mainly just the preparation that I felt was the most difficult and hard to deal with for me.
Great. Well, thank you, Peter. Do you feel that maybe the impromptu aspect, or is it just a matter of practicing more?
I think it's a matter of having more experience. The more I do these sorts of things, I think the easier they will get. So it's just, I think it's a matter of practice.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. Who else would like to give it a shot? Chandy, wonderful. Thank you for volunteering. Okay, I am going to give you a Valentine's Day question. Should Valentine's Day be considered a holiday? Oh, Chandy, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe Valentine's Day should be considered a holiday because it is a special day when people express the love for their most beloved person in their life by getting chocolates, flowers, and writing love letters to them. And I think it's a day to celebrate romantic love, and we celebrate other days for other occasions. Why not Valentine's Day to be celebrated for celebrating romantic love between a man and his cherished girlfriend or fiance or wife? Sure. Thank you.
Jandeep, are you an extravagant giver on Valentine's Day? Do you go big on Valentine's Day?
I do normally. Yes, I do. Yes. But I think things should be done in moderation. So I'm trying to do a better job of not going beyond my budget this Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you got to spread it out a little. Oh, thank you. I think we have time for one more. Would anyone else like to give it a try? Bev. Okay. Question is, okay, Bev. Public speaking is like a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger and better you become. Since joining the club, what aspect of your public speaking skills has improved the most?
For me, what has improved has been my awareness of filler words and what they were called. And I never knew that that played a huge part in when giving a speech. I have been places where people have given speeches, and I've always wondered why I'm hypnotized by the tone, by not having any gestures, and using those crutch words where you lose your audience. It's important when you're giving your speech to be able to have that certain tone to capture your audience interest by not putting them all to sleep or them getting bored to death of hearing what you have to say. Because I feel when you're standing in front of an audience, you should feel how important it is to give your speech. And I've learned that speaking is very important when you put every thought and aspect into what you have to say. And that is what I have gained from being with you all in Toastmasters, which I appreciate.
Thank you, Bev. You are a master grammarian non-crutch word, so worder. If we can learn anything from you, it certainly is that. We are probably running a little over time. So with that, I would like it if you could please send your votes for best speaker to me, Chaffee Benson.
And did everyone qualify timing?
Oh yes, sorry about that.
Yes, everybody qualified.
Thank you.
Okay.
Even Brian. I timed him.
Oh, right. Okay, that's right. Well, I will, while Chaffee is doing that, tallying the votes for the best table topic speaker, I think we could probably, is that okay if we go ahead while Chaffee is doing that and have Bev give her report as wordmaster and grammarian? Great. Okay, so I'm going to then ask Bev to come up to our virtual left turn and give her report for this evening. I'd really appreciate it if you do that, Bev.
All right. Hello again. You all did fabulous this evening. I am so proud of each of you. The majority of everyone that spoke did get an opportunity to use the crutch word for this evening. Chaffee, you were able to use it once, as well as Juan, Martha twice. Brent, you used it twice. And I don't know how many times I used it. I lost count for myself. When speaking, there were less of the filler crutch words that each of you used. For Martha, your soul is your enemy. Other than that, you did well.
I noticed that tonight, Bev. Yeah, that I was using.
And with Brent, you got a little comfortable with the which is, that's your enemy. but you did exceptionally well with your speech. With Peter, what I really appreciated about him was that he recognized that he was using his crutch word more than one time. And I think that's amazing when you start becoming aware of it, because it helps you as you continue, as he says, to practice. The more you practice, the better you will become when you're delivering your speeches and when you are speaking. With Peter, of course, your is your enemy, and as well as Brian. Brian, you used the word everything. I think that's another enemy, but you are getting comfortable. You are good. I am so proud of how you're doing the timing. You're doing it better than me. I love it. And Mary, Mary spoke. Mary, you did well with your speech. I heard no crutch words for you. You are a champ. And let's see. And I can't pronounce your name. Is it Chendi? Chendi. You used one. You used a couple of us. That's your enemy. Other than that, everyone did phenomenal. Thank you. I appreciate you all this evening. You all did absolutely great. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much for that Wordmaster and Grammarian report. And I think it was really a nice touch to have appreciate as the word for today, for the meeting. It was really nice. Okay, I will go ahead and hand it back over to Chaffee so she can tell us who the best table topic speaker is for the evening.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. The winner of Best Table Topics is Peter. Congratulations, Peter. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Wonderful. That's great. One of our guests. That's really great. Okay, I think really it is all for me. I just wanted to say it was so nice, I think, Chaffee, what you did at the beginning of the meeting for the Valentine's theme. And I really appreciate the compliment from you. People have told me that a lot, that I'm a good listener, and I really appreciate hearing that. But anyway, it was just a wonderful touch to the meeting, and everybody did so well tonight with their roles and with the speeches. I loved what I learned this evening, especially from the speeches. So I'm gonna wrap up from my end, and actually, I was gonna say that I didn't volunteer to do this role this evening. Juan actually asked me to do it, and I appreciate that too, because I am the kind of person I think that needs a little bit of a push sometimes. So thank you, Juan, for asking me to be the Toastmaster for the evening. And to finish up, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Chaffee, our president, to wrap it up.
Thank you. You are probably so tired of hearing me tonight, so I will keep this brief because I've talked a lot. I just want to say, Martha, I thought you did an exceptional job as Toastmaster tonight. You kept the meeting flowing. You had wonderful anecdotes. You gave wonderful feedback, and you certainly have a wonderful superpower, and you're a wonderful member to this club. We're very grateful to have you. And I just wanted to pass it over to our guests real quick to see if they had any feedback for us or questions about Toastmasters. You've both been here a couple times, about our club specifically, or anything else we can do to help support you.
I don't know, just going forward, just information about how one would join, or how you go, what is that process like, and what's involved?
Sure. Yeah, Peter, I can follow up on with you on email if that would be easiest. And I'm happy to jump on a Zoom call too if you want to chat through things.
Okay, email's fine. Yeah.
Awesome.
And do you want me to go ahead and send you an application, a membership application, Peter?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Peter, what is your last name?
Garrity, G-E-R-A-G-H-T-Y.
Okay.
And Martha, I can send you his email as well. That's easiest.
Sounds
Martha?
good, Jackie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Martha, I'll appreciate if you can send me another application, please.
Oh, sure, I'll send it to both of you.
Thank you.
Well, wonderful. We're 2 minutes over, but I just want to say I'm so appreciative of everyone and thank you for the wonderful speeches tonight, all the participation. It was just such a wonderful meeting and thank you all and have a wonderful Valentine's Day. And we hope to see you in a couple weeks on February 24th. Have a good night.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Good
Yeah,
night.
happy
Happy
Valentine's
Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Happy
Fantastic
Valentine's Day.
job. All right. Bye.
Bye, Mary.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mary, for
Mary.
joining us.
Yeah, great job.
Yep, thank you.